So guys, in today's video, we're going to be VOD reviewing Eomzo's 28 kill win in this recent solo Cash Cup finals. This video is primarily going to be focused on how he W keys, how he's able to stay alive while W keying, and how he's able to win the game despite being in a pretty stacked lobby. Be sure to stick around to the end of this video so that you guys don't miss any important information. Let's get right into it. So guys, to start off, he pretty much lands at this place called P-Boys HQ. It's a very solid spot and it has tons of loot, and I just want you guys to pay attention to the way he's looting here. He's really quickly just running through the POI and getting exactly what he needs. He's getting ammo boxes, chests, not too much extra stuff, and he actually doesn't fully loot the POI. As you can see, he goes into this, he gets the ammo box, and he doesn't even get the chest. He just leaves the room instantly. He avoids a lot of the chests that aren't super chests, and this is primarily because in solos, you really don't need that much stuff that's going to be very, very high quality loot. You don't need to get that much loot because you're just one player. In duos, I'd recommend you guys try to loot this full POI. However, in solos, I wouldn't recommend it simply because there's no need for that much loot. As you guys can see, he already has a pretty stacked loadout. Like I said, he focuses on getting those super chests and other stuff like big metal objects. As you can see in this room that he's in right here, he loots up on whatever he needs and then he rotates out immediately. He has only around 34 builds right now, so that's actually not too many. However, his goal primarily is to do two things: rotate out with nitro very quickly, and the second thing is to use this cactus plant. And as you guys can see, he's rotating towards Red Lion Rig, which is a really good spot because it has that legendary mythic medallion. And he also doesn't max out on materials because he focuses on getting materials from his eliminations, which he's trying to go get now. As you can see right here, he's trying to fight this player, he gets the elimination onto him, and he just got a bunch more materials. And now that he's here in Red Line Rig, his goal right here is to third party this boss fight. He wants to get the medallion and eliminate the player that has the medallion right now. So what he basically does is uses his nitro effect constantly to apply pressure onto this opponent and just eliminate them as fast as possible. And he actually kills Booga here, and as you guys know, Booga is a very good professional Fortnite player. So he's able to get one of the better players out of the lobby by pushing a really high quality POI. And now he has the medallion, he has the mythic items, he's pretty much stacked for the rest of his game. This medallion right here is pretty much a win condition for him. I don't think people seem to understand how important medallions actually are, especially in solos. And as Eomzo is able to rotate around, his goal right here is he wants to go over to Brutal Beachhead, kind of collect the other medallions and get as many attributes as he can in order to have win conditions for the game. As he rotates, he decides to go use that slurp cactus. He uses the nitro rings for further mobility, and his goal while rotating is to find some place where he can also maybe get some eliminations and also have a place where he can restock on loot if necessary. As you guys can see, he rotates over here and he goes for this elimination right here onto this player. When Eomzo is fighting, I want you guys to keep some stuff in mind. He almost always has a nitro effect because that allows him to barge through builds very easily and allows him to get a really good jump scare onto the opponent. And the second thing is that he almost always uses right hand peeks, and his movement and tracking of the opponent is very good. As you guys can see, he's not really wasting too many builds here. He's tracking his opponent really, really well through the walls. He's able to kind of, have his nitro effect constantly and focus on killing this opponent as quick as possible. As you can see, he uses his nitro effect there. And even though there is a third party shooting at them right now, he's able to secure his elimination very quickly. And he uses his nitro effect, of course, and he continues to rotate onto the next zones. Now, like I said, his goal right here is to rotate over the Brutal Beachhead and get the elimination onto the player here with the medallion. And he does exactly that. He basically just quickly eliminates the player with the medallion. And his goal pretty much right here is to chase this opponent down. And even though I wouldn't recommend you guys chasing opponents like this, I genuinely think that it's a good idea for Eomzo because he has all of the resources. He has a medallion, he has a mythic weapon, he has all the heals and the nitro he could possibly need. And also, since he's on a deader side of map, near the edge of the map where there's not as many players, I don't think it's a horrible thing that he's actually chasing this opponent. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, to be honest with you. I'd actually recommend it if you guys are fighting for the medallion. And as you guys can see, he keeps chasing him around the map constantly. He keeps going through the different stages of the game without him. He keeps chasing him. This is pretty much a constant chase that Eomzo goes through. As they keep going, they go all the way over to Nitrodrome, and then he basically finds this cactus area and then eliminates the opponent over here. And once he's able to eliminate him, that's a really crucial thing that pretty much changes the course of his game. Now he has 2 medallions, he has all the health and shields he could possibly need, and he also has really good weapons. On top of that, he's able to restock really well on mats here. He went from having around 20 builds to 40 builds, which is a big difference. But now his goal is to pretty much try to farm a little bit more and try to also restock on materials by getting eliminations. Eomzo's whole strategy revolves around landing at a low-key drop spot like the P-Boys HQ and then rotating to the bigger POIs with the medallions in order to get those in order to win the game. As you can see right here, Eomzo is snuck up on. He does get hit for a little bit, but you need to understand he is really good at turning defense into offense. He is instantly taking the high ground. However, even though he does lose it, he understands that he's able to retake it whenever he wants because of his really good mechs. And also, he pops his Nuka-Cola to make sure that he's at full health constantly. And another really good thing that Eomzo is really smart at is learning when to disengage. He disengages over to this cactus plant and rotates over to restored reels. Now, the reason for this is not what you guys might think. You might think that he's doing it because he's afraid he wouldn't win the fight, or is he afraid that he would get third-partied? That's not actually it. He's rotating away right here in order to restock on 2 things. That's going to be materials and also some meds. As you guys can see, he only has 2 Nuka-Colas left. While that is a good amount to make him through that fight, he doesn't ever want to be in a situation where he does not have meds in order to play the next fight. So Eomzo tries to rotate out, restock on those 2 things, which are meds and mats. Obviously, he's rotating around the area. He beams a player out of the sky, which this is one really crucial thing, is that Eomzo makes sure that he always tries to get an offensive advantage when he pushes a fight. He almost always takes fights when having an offensive advantage, and once again, has the nitro effect constantly that helps him win fights really easily. And because of that nitro effect and his medallions that he has, he's really not afraid to push in, so he pretty much just barrels through enemy players' boxes, and that allows him to get many eliminations really quickly and finish fights really quickly. And the reason that finishing fights really quickly is important is because you don't want to get third-partied, and the longer your fight goes on, the more likely you are to be third-partied. Eomzo also focuses on rotating to the center of zone while looking for eliminations on the way. Many players in this lobby are going to be scared and looking for wins because this is the Solo Cash Cup Finals, so you need to understand that it's really not going to be that serious when it comes to them running away from you. Most players you push are going to try to run away from you and play for the win. So Eomzo right here is playing with no fear and playing like he owns and runs the lobby. Basically what Eomzo does here is he runs through this lobby with his infinite nitro effect. He's going to be pushing everybody with offensive advantages, and he's able to close out these fights super quickly due to his infinite nitro and his loot and his confidence. And despite the lobby being really stacked, Eomzo pretty much for the rest of this mid game just pushes random enemy players, tries to get as many tags and eliminations that he can, and even though he doesn't succeed for a little patch of time right here, he's still able to get plenty of eliminations in the later stages of the mid game coming up. And one thing that I really want you guys to understand is that Eomzo is fighting primarily on the edges of zone where there's going to be the least amount of players. Yes, he may be near the congested side of zone, but understand that players in these lobbies are looking for wins. So a lot of players are going to be already based up. They're already going to be looking for places where they cannot be really hit a lot very easily. They're going to be looking for places where they're not going to be eliminated very easily. So he's picking off the stragglers on the edge of zone. Once again, that's a really good strat of W keying and not getting eliminated yourself. I also want you guys to understand that his infinite nitro medallion is the reason he's able to do this so seamlessly. He's able to chase all these fights down and able to win all these fights because of his infinite nitro effect. Without that, he would have not had half as many eliminations as he has right now. I also want you guys to understand that during these later stages of the game, in the start of this sort of end game right here, he's taking fights really close to the edge of zone. As you guys can see right here, he's on the edge of zone, places where not too many other players are going to be. He's in a really good area that there's not going to be too many people looking for third parties on him. He's also protected by these mountains and this cover right here, which is why he's able to take fights like this onto this enemy player. As you guys can see, he does rotate really well. He's rotating on sort of the deader side of zone where there's less players, using this mountain and sort of this edge area as cover. And due to that, he's able to get a bunch of eliminations as he rotates. I also want to point out his loadout right here. He does have a mythic AR, a mythic deagle. He also has a really good shotgun in 4 Nuka-Colas. At this point, he doesn't need to carry Nitro Splash. If he didn't have the medallion, I'd recommend he would carry Nitro Splash. However, you need to understand that because he does have the medallion, he's able to pretty much carry just meds and weapons. That's pretty much all he needs in order to have the optimal W King loadout. He's basically just running through the lobby at this point. He's using his Nitro to sort of barge into an opponent's boxes and get eliminations really quickly. There's not too much special stuff that he's doing that's sort of helping him win these fights. It's pretty much just using his Nitro. And also something that you need to understand that's really important about Eomzo. Eomzo hits all of his shots, and that's something that really separates a lot of pro players from you guys who are sort of lower level players. He doesn't miss. He literally hits almost all of his shots with no question, and that's really something that's going to separate him. He doesn't miss shots very often. He's just kind of eliminating people super quickly because he's not missing. He's eliminating them. He's getting really high damage tagged onto them. That's the reason he's finishing these fights so quickly. That's something that you can't really have natural talent for. You need to sort of practice that, and he's practiced his aim enough to the point where he's really effective at doing that. So you guys need to understand he's still rotating on the lower layers of this zone, and you also need to understand that when Eomzo is playing these end games, his primary goal, especially because it's not super stacked, is to focus on getting eliminations and then rotation, because rotation kind of comes second for him because he has that Nitro effect. Because of that, he's able to use this dead side of zone right here, go up the hill like this, and easily rotate to sort of that area in zone where nobody's really going to be paying attention to him. He's using this cover really well. That's what I think makes Eomzo so effective during these end games when he's trying to W key. And also, see, look, he's still going for these fights really quickly. He has the medallion that allows him to regenerate shield. He has the Nuka-Colas, and he also genuinely has the ability to use Nitro constantly. What I want you guys to also understand is that as he's rotating throughout the endgame zones, he's trying to restock on stuff that he can use for heal off. So when he gets eliminations like this, he decides to switch to stuff more so like med kits and med miss because he wants to plan for a potential heal off that may happen later in the game. As you guys can see, he's getting a lot of these eliminations, and I want you guys to focus on which items he picks up. You guys can see that he used his 2 Nuka-Colas that he had in his secondary slot. His goal right here is I need to get some stuff for the heal off of this game, so he decides he's going to pick up these medkits right here. And he's also really good at playing mid and low ground in order to get a lot of these eliminations. He's just kind of running through mid ground using his nitro effect, but whenever he wants to get a lot of eliminations, he goes to low ground and sort of sprays up. He tries to sort of mess with people from the low ground area because it uses less materials, which he needs for the later part of the game in order to secure the win. But it's also really crucial because that's the best way to get eliminations, is to spray people down from low ground if you guys have really good W key items. Once again, he decides to pick up this med miss because that's going to be what's helpful for the heal off in the later stages of the game. And ideally, one thing that I'd recommend Eomzo does here is try to look for the high ground to maybe secure that win and get a lot more eliminations from the high ground. However, you need to understand that getting a high ground isn't really that easy. You need to sort of be a lot more in a better position to get high ground. He obviously does try to look for it, however, he doesn't actually end up achieving it. His smart play that he does here is playing zone, sort of backing up, going on the low ground area, and focusing on staying alive till the later stages of the game, and then winning the game either through heal off or through elimination of the last couple of players. And guys, to limit the chances of him losing in a heal off, he tries to eliminate as many of the last remaining players as he possibly can. He whittles it down to 4 players alive and then focuses on staying on his own layer, keeping to himself, and this is sort of where he becomes a little bit more passive. He wants to get the win because that's what the whole solo cash cup is about, is that you need to get your wins if you guys want to earn money. Now there's 3 players left, 1 on high ground, 1 on low ground. His goal is primarily to win the game, so he wants to focus on getting rid of high ground first because that's the person who could possibly win the heal off, because you can't really build up as easily as you can go down. In this player right here, he doesn't really want to risk the 1v1, so he decides to go into zone and to do the heal off, and eventually he ends up winning the game, and that's pretty much how he does it, by winning and heal off in this W key game. Now guys, this game from Eomzo was really good. I'm sorry if I spoke a little fast or I was kind of unclear on what I was saying, but the general gist of what I want you guys to understand is that Eomzo always has a nitro effect. He bases his whole game upon getting those win conditions like those medallions, and he's also really smart in his aim, his peaks, and also his constant tracking and movement of opponents. His choice of fight taking is also really good. He takes them on the dead side of zone if possible, because that's how the least likeliness of him getting third partied will be. And towards the later stages of the game, he transitions to more of a heal off playstyle just in case that does happen, because that is what's a lot of the stuff's happening in these later end games in this season. Now I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel down below. But I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.